been so long. I mean, I know we talk on all the time, but it's good to see you live on a video.
I don't remember when was our event.
It was on June.
Which event did we make? 2019, a long time ago.
Yeah, it seems like yesterday, and at the same time, it seems like years ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've been to other events. So here in December, I started again going to Cancun as a volunteer, and I went back to Cancun in February, I think, as a volunteer. In April, I'm gonna go to Orlando as a volunteer, and to the advanced follow-up as a participant.
Oh my God! What's the biggest difference that you see going as a volunteer as opposed to going as a participant?
Yeah, helping other people transform themselves, seeing the change, like in the walking meditations, like you feel how they begin to walk faster or with more love. You connect in a different way to the divine with watching them. I help because of my size. I help with the wheelchair assistance. So I personally help someone walking in the beach while they're doing the meditation. So seeing them overcome their challenges, it's great.
Wow, that's so fantastic. Yeah, because you're so tall. I don't know if you remember, but when we did the challenge course, and we had that high beam that was 55 feet up in the air, you and I were one of the first people to walk across the I-beam, and you actually started walking across the I-beam. You were actually in front of me, and you were walking towards the middle, and I was at the top, and I had the benefit of being able to see you. And so I noticed that you took, you had big feet because, I'm small, right? So I noticed that even though your feet were large, you were very steadily walking on the plank. And I thought, oh, very steady Eddie. So I need to do very steady like that too. And that it helped me. I don't say I have anymore, but before then, up until I did that experience, I had a fear of heights. So I just remembered, talking myself down, saying I could do this. I was just focusing on my breath, slowing down my breath, slowing down my heart rate, slowing down my brain waves. And I just really got into that zone where it was a walking meditation, but now I'm doing it, as I climb the stairs, to get across. And I just remember seeing your feet. I'm like, oh, wow. Because your feet were so large that the sides of your shoes, you had tennis shoes on, and the sides of your shoes weren't supported by the beam because you've got big feet. Whereas my feet, my entire shoe was on the beam. So I'm like, oh, I have 100% support. But all you need is the middle part of your shoe to be supported by the beam. So I remember thinking, I have an advantage since I'm so much smaller. And I'm also light as a bird. So it's kind of like walking on a little tripwire, So I was looking at that from that perspective. And I, that was an experience which, fast forward, that challenge, I've used that feeling over and over again. Every time I've had an unwanted situation, I just slow down. It just trained me to slow down my breath, slow down my heart rate, slow down my brainwave, and then focus on what I want, whether my eyes are open or closed. And I can do a walking meditation. And I had my cell phone stolen. An hour later, it was in my hand. I was able to manifest, car rental, which is like anywhere from, in Europe, it's like 30, 40 to like 80, 90 euros a day. I got mine for 2.7, like not even €3 a day. I put it in my mind, I was thinking, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do €5 a day, €4 a day. And I got it for 2.77 euros a day.
Yeah.
My landlord, when I showed my landlord said, that's impossible. It's usually 30 to 60 euros a day is usually the average. I'm like, he goes, how'd you do that? I said, I just applied the formula and I just meditated on it and boom. He's like, no way. He's like, can you do it again? So I did it over and over again the whole time because I lived in Europe for 6 months. I did it over and over. And they were like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I'm like, so it's exciting to see that you did the same as I don't remember the gentleman that we saw when we were in Cancun who
Do you
manifested.
remember Eduardo?
Yeah,
Oh
Osorio.
yeah, of course, yeah. I saw him in December in Cancun.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So he wanted to hear my story because he had issues with money.
Mm-hmm.
So I just talked to him in Zoom about my experience, and he was fascinated by it.
Well, that's why I wanted to do this show today, so that you could share your entire story. It was awesome to see the stories of transformation on Dr. Joe's site. You know, they do a short version, but I wanted you to share the whole story. And I've been telling people a lot on Love and Money Secrets TV how, you know, as you begin to apply these practices, you know, we are all, we're really powerful creators, but we all have, you know, different issues and different shades of gray in different areas of our life. And there are some areas that we manifest really well, and then there are others that we don't manifest as well. And it's all the same thing. And
Yeah.
you may think it's like, oh, I can do it. Yeah, I can do it for healing for my body, but I can't do it for money. Or vice versa. Oh yeah, I can, you know, money, it's like no big deal. I can do it for money, but I can't do it for healing. Or I can do it for money and health, but I can't do it for personal relationships.
Yeah.
And the truth is, it's energy. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's a $1 bill or a $100 bill. You know, the energy in terms of the divine, it's a piece of paper that we give it a value, and it doesn't matter what the writing's on the paper.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the digits on your bank account, those are just digital numbers. So the divine doesn't care whether it's $50, $5,000, $500,000, or $5 million. It doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it's just little numbers. Sure, I'll give you a credit for that if that's what you want to manifest. It's like, you know, so I would love for you to share, you know, your story and what led you, you know, first of all, were you actually born and raised in Mexico?
Yeah, I'm from Mexico, in a state called Tabasco.
What's it called?
Tabasco, like the sauce.
Like Tabasco sauce. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived there 7 years. Then I went 5 years to United States. Then I came back, and I've been here since.
Wow. Okay, fantastic. And so how did you find out, how did you learn about Dr. Joe and his work?
Swanee was the one that told me about the book. She was looking for different kinds of healings. So she found out about breaking the habit of being yourself. And she told me that I had to read it. Before that, I stopped believing in God, in religion, in miracles, because they weren't evidence about that. So I just stopped believing.
Yeah.
And when she told me to read this book, I couldn't stop. When I started, I couldn't stop because everything was evidence, everything. So after that, I couldn't go back to the way of thinking prior reading of that book. So when I finished it, I told her that we had to go to an event.
Oh, that must have been music to her ears. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was great because my mom had to go to Las Vegas to a jewelry event, and the progressive was the next weekend. So I just went with my mom, and we stayed there the weekend and went to the event. Then after the event, everything happened between 2 or 3 months when I started to read the book to my first advance in Cancun. Because after the event in Las Vegas, the progress, they told us if we wanted to go to the advance, that it was going to be in 2 weeks. So we thought, should we go? Everything is too fast, but we said, who cares? Let's continue learn. And after that, I haven't stopped going to the events. And now, after manifesting this, why would I stop going? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's funny that you should say that, because once I started off with Becoming Supernatural, and that was in March of 2019. And then as I was reading the book, I started, you know, watching more of his videos online. And then I saw a particular interview where he said that now they're starting to have people get up out of wheelchairs, and he said he's going to convert over to do just 7-day advanced events and not do any of the like 2-3 days anymore, because now they're starting to see miracles that are of biblical proportions, and the formula works, and now it's just, you know, getting more people to do it, right? And I thought, okay, I gotta go. And I had been hit by a bus, like very similar to him. He was hit by an SUV. I was hit by a bus while riding my bike. I had a traumatic brain injury, neck injury, back injury, terrible, ugly scar on my leg. And so when I decided March 24th to go to the June Cancun event. And it was like 4:00 in the morning. I went on the site, I went to register. I was a little confused on what the process was like. I thought I had registered. I went ahead, you know, got the hotel booked. I got confirmation of the hotel booking. I bought my plane ticket. I thought I was done, but I didn't get a confirmation to evidence the registration. So like a week later, I found out that it didn't get registered and they were sold out. And so I'm going back and forth emailing them. I'm like, but you don't understand. I already bought my plane ticket. I already have my hotel reservation. I already paid for everything. You know, I'm going. And they said, well, we're sorry, but we're sold out. And I thought, oh, so I said, you know what? I'm just going to use the meditation to manifest going. It doesn't matter that they're sold out. So, and no matter what, I'm going to go to Cancun. And even if I don't get into the event, the worst that can happen is that I'll have a vacation in Cancun, but I'm going to Cancun. 2 days before the event, 2 days before I was scheduled to fly out, they sent me an email. Somebody canceled. And I was in the overflow hotel because the primary hotel, the Grand Velas, was already sold out. And so I was in the overflow hotel and they said, somebody canceled. If you'd like, we see that you're in the overflow hotel. If you would like, you can take their spot at the Grand Velas. You just have to pay the difference, you know, pay for the registration. And I said, done. So I ended up going, and the rest is history. And once that happened, I was with the mindset that, you know what, I'm just going to treat this like I'm back in college. It's like a university education by becoming supernatural, which you can probably see. Actually, I moved it. But I use it as a textbook, and I've just been applying and studying everything, and his other books too. But just, and then I signed up for Costa Brava, Spain. And then, of course, as you know, it got, you know, they kept on getting postponed because of COVID and everything. And that was going to be my next one. I wanted to go to 3 in a year, but right after Cancun, I was like in 10 different countries for the remaining, which was part of applying the formula too. I could have never, if you would have told me, oh, you're going to be flying all over the world, you know, after Cancun, I would have said, no. My only plan was to go to, you know, Cancun and then to Alaska, and then that was it. And then the rest is history, but just applying the formula. So yeah, so it's very exciting. So then what happened was June 2019, your first Dr. Joe event with Swanee?
No, my first one was in Cancun, 2017.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, before the week longs. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you have a little bit of history. So you've got several years under your belt, 4 years going.
And a lot of events. I don't even remember how many I have.
Yeah, because you just go. So basically every time there's one, you just go.
Yeah, if it's in Cancun, we always have 2 in Cancun, in June and in December. I try to be in both of them, or at least in one prior to my manifestation. But now I try to go to both. Yeah. And if there's an event in United States or in a city that I want to visit, like I went to Berlin in 2018. I wanted to visit Germany, and I saw that Dr. Joe was going to be in Berlin. So I went there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start doing that, especially now that he's starting to have the events again. So I'll see you in Florida.
Perfect. In Orlando.
Yeah, I'll be in Orlando. I was hoping he was going to do San Marco because I've never been to San Marco in Florida.
In Marco Island?
I've never been to Marco Island. So I'm going to, but he's having it at Orlando. So I said, great. So I got
You could have gone to the advanced follow-up in Marco Island.
I wanted to go, but I wasn't able to, for some reason. Well, I've been taking some courses in Nevada with Dr. David Snyder. And so I wasn't able to coordinate it because I went ahead and, invested in, it was basically, like college tuition. So I already had scheduled certain classes to go. So it's like, if I'm in Nevada, I can't be in, whatever other location at the same time. So I wasn't able to go to that advanced follow-up, because that's the other thing I want to do. It's like, I really want to go to an advanced follow-up. They had a Chicago one that looks like the dates were for me, but I wasn't able to get in. And it was close enough in dates with what Dr. David had going on that I'm like, okay, I wasn't able to do it. But moving forward, I'm like, okay, at least, I'm going to the Orlando one, and then whatever one, I'm just gonna put it in my meditation that I'm just gonna go to all the Dr. Joe events moving forward, because it is such, I really want to say, Tomas, it's really sacred work. Especially during this time. I mean, who would have ever thought that we were going to experience this pandemic? This is the most outrageous thing, and I think it's the most perfect thing as well. I don't wish any ill will or any harm or any suffering for anyone. But I got to say that one of the game changers for me was, especially once I went to the first Dr. Joe event, was because I had that reference point of Dr. Joe's event and having the challenge course and having the unwanted feeling of feeling the adrenaline rush. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, I'm going to die if I fall off that, and it's like, what am I doing? This is like crazy to think that I can do this. And then I'm like, no, it's not crazy. And it's like the self-mastery where it's like, nope, slow down. This is unwanted. I don't really want to cross that thing. However, I kind of have no choice. I said that I was committed to this work. If this is what Dr. Joe is telling us that we need to do, then it's an unwanted situation, but I got to do it. I just have to trust and believe in the unknown, and that the universe has my back. And so I'm going to do this. And so I just slowed down my breath, slowed down my heart rate, slowed down my brain waves. And I said, I can do this. And I said, ego, I go, shut up. You're in timeout. Brain, do as I say. You are not my master. You are my servant. You do as I say. And then I was just very much in that zone where I couldn't see that I was 55 feet up in the air, which doesn't make any sense. All I saw was the bright yellow beam. I couldn't, but there was loud music. If you remember, as you're going up, I didn't hear the music. I didn't hear the people. I didn't even see the green grass. All I saw was the bright yellow beam, and that it was more than enough in terms of width to cover the surface area of my shoe. Everything else kind of like blurred away. And then I was like in the zone. Moving forward, you went to Berlin. Tell us about your first experience then at Dr. Joe. What was your first aha? Because you obviously had a big aha when you read the book. And that was a game changer. That was your catalyst that got you to go to Dr. Joe's event. So then what was the next step? What was the next aha? Because obviously there was another revelation, which is what kept you coming back to the other events.
The next thing was hearing people, their testimonials, people going on stage and telling their stories about healings that were like miracles. I didn't, at that time, I thought that only a few people could do that, but I was amazed about that. And the thing is that knowing that there are diseases that are not curable, and learning that everything is curable, or at least almost everything, that is the thing that kept me going back to those events.
Yeah, so I would have to agree with you. I think the biggest takeaway that I had from that first Dr. Joe event too was seeing, you remember we had Sal, who was the guy who was, I'm not sure from what Central American country, but I know he was parachuting, and he ended up, his parachute failed him, and he ended up having a tree break his fall. He broke his back in like 3 places. And at the beginning of the event, that June of 2019, I remember he at the end of my aisle, because you were in the row in front of me with Suwani, and at the end of our aisle, I didn't know his name was Sal at the time, but I just remember when he laid down against the wall that his legs were up in the air because he couldn't straighten himself out because when he was walking, hunched over.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
I just remember him walking and how he was like crooked, bending over.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, that guy looks like he's in a lot of pain. That looks really uncomfortable. And like, I had no idea what had happened to him that he was in that position, but it was clear that he was in pain. And then when he laid down, that looked really uncomfortable too. So to see him by the end of the event, I don't remember if it was the 5th, the 6th, or the 7th day, but to all of a sudden, he looked like an Olympic athlete. And then he was so much taller because now he's standing straight.
Yeah.
And he was so excited. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's the same guy. And I'm like, I recognized his face. And then he was so exuberant. And then of course they recorded that testimonial, and later, maybe like months and months later, they ended up releasing it on Dr. Joe's YouTube channel. And I remember
he went on stage, right?
Say that again.
He was on stage. He was on stage, right?
He towards the end of I want to say it was like the 5th or the 6th day. It may have even been the 7th day of the Cancun 2019 event. He got on there, and you can only imagine how excited. I mean, you saw he was like, was like wanting to burst out of his own skin. He was like, look, I can stand up straight. And then he's like, look, I couldn't do this. And then he laid down perfectly, flat. Yeah. And he was he was like limber. He was flexible. He had no issue whatsoever. And as he described during the meditation, because as you know, when that's the one thing they probably should tell more people about. When you go to do the meditations, it's not necessarily a quiet experience. There are quiet moments, but there are people who are having heartgasms, braingasms, and then people like Sal, who his bones started going snap, crackle, pop. It's like going crack, 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 crack. And he said he didn't know, he felt something. The energy was moving and adjusting him. And he said his bones started going pop, 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 pop. And so you hear all sorts of things. And you hear some people yelling, which is like, it's supposed to be a quiet meditation, but at the same time, I think that is also preparing you, and people don't realize it, I don't think in the moment, but that's preparing you for when you're out there in life and you have crap that all of a sudden hits you, that's unwanted. You have sirens going, you have people screaming. Guess what? You have to have enough self-mastery to say, okay, I don't want this, I don't like this, this is not the outcome, this is going the wrong way. Freaking out, crying, yelling, that's only gonna cement in what is. You hit the pause button, you're like, doesn't matter that all that noise is going on outside, or if it's your ego, you can hit the pause button, you can slow down your breath, slow down your heart rate, slow down your brain waves, and you can still tap into the divine, even with all that is going on.
Yeah. That used to happen to me in my first or second event, that I heard people screaming and yelling and crying and everything. And I was like, why are they screaming? I stopped meditating because I was angry. But then after that, I understood that would happen. And now every time I hear them, I'm happy for them because they are having a mystical experience.
Yeah.
And I can connect to the divine, even though they are screaming, because I practiced enough.
Yeah. And like the thing is, because we haven't experienced that, or I hadn't experienced that before, but I think it's a great training ground, and that is that person's reality. And I remember thinking, it's like, oh, I want to have the mystical experience. That's a control freak in us, and our ego, of course. It's like, I want to have the mystical experience, but I don't want to be screaming my head off like that. I want to have a heartgasm. I want to have a braingasm, but I don't want to be out of control like that, where people are gonna. And the thing is, that's you getting in your own way. So if I'm wanting to control all of that, the divine's going, she's not ready for it yet.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing that I had issues with was trying to have an experience, and that if I didn't have that in that meditation, I feel bad because I couldn't do it. But now I don't care if I have a good or bad or whatever meditation, if I connect or not. I just do what he tells me, and everything is great. So I've started to have little experiences without having an expectation.
Yeah. Well, that's the non-attachment and what he talks about, letting go and surrendering, which is not easy. The letting go and the surrendering.
Yeah.
He's good about training us. He had obviously we had to let go and surrender and walk across that I-beam.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't easy, but we did it. And then for me, believe it or not, it was even harder. We had the one experience where we had to cross our arms, and then they had that giant net where there's a whole group of people that are holding the net. Mm-hmm. And we had to drop backwards into that net. I thought, I'll just walk over the I-beam again, because at least on the I-beam, I control at what rate I'm taking each step. Mm-hmm. And I know I did it once, I can do it again. Now I have to actually free fall. And for me, because I had a neck injury and a back injury and so forth, I wasn't afraid that they couldn't catch me. I knew I was small. It's like, okay, yeah, they're not going to drop me. But what I wasn't sure was if once I hit the net, if I was going to have horrific pain. It's like, I just the thought of having that horrible pain throughout my body, I thought I wouldn't be able to handle that. And it's like, I could re-injure myself. And so I said, no, that's a negative thought. That's my ego trying to keep me small. And I just remember saying to God and to the divine, I'm like, okay, you're putting me through this. I really, I know that it's like, normally I would re-injure myself. So I just got to have enough faith and trust that you're having me go through this experience for a good reason, and you're going to keep me from harm's way. So against my better judgment, I'm going to do this, but I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't concerned. I was really concerned about the pain, because if you've ever had a back injury or a neck injury, there's no such thing. It's such a sharp, piercing pain. There's no good position. And even inhaling hurts, exhaling hurts. It's like and there's no end in sight. So I, luckily I did the thing. I had zero pain. Of course I landed so gently, which that was shocking, but I was like, oh my gosh. And then using that feeling of falling and then having them catch you, and you're a big guy. So it's like, I'm sure people that are tall and big like you are probably wondering, are they going to be able to catch me? I'm not a little person, So it's like, there's women of, I'm not very big. I probably, if it was all women my size, you'd probably go, probably not. But men and women, and they tried to space it out so there's men every few around. But like I said, you're a very tall, you're a big guy, so I'm sure you must have thought, are they going to be able to catch me? Because that would not be fun if all of a sudden they walked in, and then now all of a sudden my back hits the grass. It's like, oh, that'd be horrible,
Yeah, that I didn't have a lot of issues because I saw people going before me that were bigger or taller. So I was a little bit confident that they could catch me. Yeah, and I had done something similar, but without the net. People were, I was doing the surrender activity, but in another event, nothing to do with Joe, that the people had their hands like this, one in front of each other, and we should go down like this. So that was a little bit more scary because there were hands, there wasn't a net. So there were a lot of people to catch me. Wow. So, yeah, I had a little bit of experience with that particularly. Yeah.
That's amazing. Was that $100,000 the first manifestation that you had, or did you have another manifestation prior to that?
Yeah, before that, the thing that I entered, answering your your question about what kept me coming back, another thing that kept me coming back was the healings. Being part of the healings of the cage, that opens your heart. Seeing the person in front of you laying down with their disease or issues or whatever, and knowing that you could give them life, it opens my heart. So that's one of the most important things that I come back to those events. The thing that I wanted to do first was heal my body. I don't have big issues, but like tendons and inflammations. So I wanted to heal that. But every time I finish a meditation, I was checking if I had the illness or the pain. So every time I finished the meditation, I went back to lack in health. So I wanted to do something else that didn't have my attention every day, the whole day. And money was that thing. In the event in Berlin in 2018, Dr. Joe talked about his friend manifesting that money. So I knew I could do everything that he did, like putting the amount that I wanted in my mind movie, or meditating new potentials with the amount of money that I wanted, putting in the background of my cell phone my bank account with the amount of money that I wanted. And every time I felt abundant or see my cell phone, I didn't went back and think, oh, I don't have money, because I had money enough to eat that day. So I didn't have that going back every time I finish something about creating abundance. So I said I could do that. I put that I wanted to earn $30,000 in my bank account.
How much?
And I told myself $30,000.
Oh.
I wanted to put an amount that was credible. I didn't want to put like $10 million because I wouldn't believe that. So I wanted to put something kind of simple. And I told my sister that I was going to do that. So I put a background with $30,000 in my bank account. In my movie, I put 2 images. One that said, I have more than enough money to pay my bills. My income increases while I sleep.
I love that when you said that that was awesome. My money grows as
So every morning and every night, I started with my mind movie before going to sleep and before waking up. Sometimes I did the new potentials. Sometimes I didn't do that one. But then the constant thing was my mind movie and seeing my bank account with the Photoshop and connecting to that feeling of having that. So when I told my sister, she said, I'm going to manifest $120,000. Okay. And a month later, she called me and told me that the house that was on sale for 7 or 6 years that my dad wanted to sell, he didn't want it to sell less than $200,000. Never. So she told me, remember that house? Yeah. We sold it. My dad accepted to sell it for $120,000, and everyone, each of us received $30,000.
Wow.
So that was 1 month after I started doing these meditations.
Don't you love it? That's so awesome.
Yeah, I was amazed that I could do that. But then, because that was one of my first events, I think that was my third or second event going to Joe, and he always said that the universe worked in the unknown. So I went back and thought that wasn't the unknown, because that was a house that was gonna be sold sometime.
Yeah.
So I didn't think at that time that was from the universe. Now I know that it was from the universe, but at the time I didn't believe it because it wasn't totally unknown.
Yeah.
So I kept doing my movie, that if I felt lack, I just stopped that moment and start to feel the abundance emotions. kept seeing my background of the cell phone, everything. I mean, that was my whole day. A few months later, Swanee told me about a guy that was a broker and wanted me to invest in the stocks. So at first I was like, I don't know, if I've never done that. I don't know if it's gonna work. But after that, I said, okay, if I lose money, who cares? I'm gonna be open to the unknown. Yeah. So after a few months, I started to earn crazy amount of money. Uh, I mean, for me, I didn't earn more than $1,000 a month, and with him, I started to earn up to $5,000 a month
Wow.
every month. Yeah, it was a lot of money. I couldn't believe it, but that I forgot for a year that was in my mind movie because I stopped watching my mind movie. So after a year, no, less, like 3 to 6 months later, I watched my mind movie again, and I saw that I was earning while I was asleep, while I was asleep, and I said, "Man, this is from my mind movie. I forgot about it." But then I went back because I didn't believe that was from totally the unknown because someone presented me that guy. So maybe he could have come in another time. So I kept going. And that was the third time was when I was more connected to the abundance feelings. Every time I felt that, if it was taking a shower or eating or whatever, I I realized that I felt lack like 70% of my day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot.
That's an incredible
Yeah,
awareness to have.
yeah, yeah. So every time I felt lack, I stopped and just elevated my emotions. And also when I had nothing to do in that moment, I just elevated my emotions just to play, to feel abundance,
Feel good.
to feel good. So I kept doing that. That was the main thing I started to do after the second manifestation. And then I started to receive mails from a company that I had stocks in. I didn't know the company. I've never done something in stocks unless my broker did it. So I called him and I said, "Do you know this company? Do you know these stocks?" And he said, "I've never worked with those guys. I don't have anything to do with them. So no, I don't know them." So I called them and said that I didn't have any accounts with them. That was a mistake. It was a physical mail coming to my house with my full name and my address. So I didn't think nothing about it. I just called and said, "Hey, this isn't my account. Can you cancel it? Because I don't want to have problems with whoever."
Mhm.
And they said, "Yeah, the only thing that we can do to cancel the account is withdrawing the stocks and transfer to your account, to another account." So I said, "Yeah, but that's not my money. So please cancel the account." I was like, "That's not mine, and I don't want anything to do with it." So they said, "The only thing that we can do is if you withdraw money." So I said, "Okay, please tell me how much money I have." I was thinking like $100, $200, or I don't know, whatever amount, so I could finish that process with them. So the next day they called me and they said that I had almost $100,000 in stocks. I was like, that. I mean, I started to say to them, "Okay, that's my money. How could I withdraw it?" I changed
Yeah.
because I knew there was a lot of money. I didn't know that I could withdraw it because I've never known them. I didn't know anything about them. So when I started to withdraw the money, I was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." I mean, I never wanted to work, but to earn money this way, it's amazing. So right there, I said that's the unknown. I mean, there's nothing I could say or do or think that is not from the unknown. And my broker started to look up where that money came from, and he didn't find anything that I could say, okay, maybe someone that I knew put money in that. Nothing. So
So
that it started in 2018, in June 2018, and by May or March in 2019, I started to receive those mails. So in less than a year, I manifested 3 things.
wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, so now that's funny because once you do manifest things like this that are so like not only from the unknown but so out of the ordinary, you
Yeah.
realize, wow, this is how you really take and mold the energy into particles. It's
Yeah.
like everything that we see out here, somebody has thought of it and has put the focused attention so that we see it in 3D. And we didn't really realize that we have the same ability to do that in everything, whether it's health, whether
Yeah.
it's money, it doesn't matter what it is. And
It's
as we
the
get more,
same thing.
it's the exact same thing, yeah. And so now you're more responsible with it. And of course, the more you do it, your belief increases, but also the speed. That's the one thing that I noticed over the
Yeah.
last year and a half is that it starts to happen faster. And you're like,
Yeah.
wow. So now something that would have taken me 5-6 weeks, 2-3 months, now it happens in an hour. I had several things
Yeah.
where it went down to like an hour, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's like within an hour, boom.
Yeah.
So
And I forgot the last one. I only talked to in this testimonial to the third one. The last one was in January. My mom called me and said that my father was gonna give her money. I don't know why he did that, but he gave her a lot of money that she told us that she didn't need that money. She wanted to share it with us. So usually my grandfather didn't give her that much money in one payment, or I don't know how you say it. And my mother never gave us that amount, that much money. So when she called me and said, "I'm gonna give you money to you and your sisters," and I said, "How much?" She said, $25,000. And I said, "Okay, for the three of us." She said, "No, each." Like, oh my God. She never gave us that amount, and my grandfather didn't give her that amount, that much amount. So it was, I that in if I was in 2018, I would have thought that that was the known. But now, knowing that the universe gives it to you, not totally unknown, but um, without knowing where it's gonna come, even though it's your family, um, I knew that was from the divine also. So I've been receiving money from everywhere.
wow. So
It's
so
great.
like what you were saying before, it's like, wow, you really don't have to work for it. You can continue
Yeah,
to use your time to do these coherence healings, to go to the Dr.Joe events, to be, whether you're a participant or whether, luckily, as a participant as well as a volunteer, you do get to participate in the coherence healings, throughout
yeah,
the event. That was one of my favorite things too. Like for me, it was like way more extraordinary to be one of the healers as opposed to when I was a healee
yeah,
and they're praying for me. For me, it was a much more just, oh, I don't know, it just was a more emotional, it just like the energy was like bigger and it was more exciting for me to be in that. There's something where it's hard to put into words, the feeling in this room where everybody is of one mind. We're all in that unconditional love where you could feel it in you, through you, all around you. it's like this dense, buttery energy. It's really hard to describe. You just know that this person, there's like no doubt whatsoever in your mind that this person is being healed, probably on multiple levels. Because that's the one thing I've noticed, that people, we had a guy I know that he was a Healy, and he was there with an aide, and he had whatever his issue was. It was obviously a very serious issue. You know, he couldn't keep from salivating. You know, he had to wear a bib. He was basically paralyzed, you could tell, from the neck down. And then during the middle of one of Dr. Joe's things after the coherence healings, he motioned to the caregiver and he actually stood up from the wheelchair. And I don't know if you remember, everybody started to, it was like so.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, when he got up, I was like, I can't believe. I'm like, I shouldn't say I can't believe, because we saw so many extraordinary things.
Yeah.
But he was so, so far off. And the thing that you do hear and you start to see, it's like, wow, you hear of people who got healed who had titanium rods in their neck. So it didn't matter that that person had a surgery where they had a titanium rod in their neck. The divine was still able to heal them, and it knew exactly what needed to be done, despite the fact that there was a titanium piece of metal that was not, of organic matter. And it was still able to give that person relief and completely heal them. It really goes to show you that it does not matter. There is no hurdle that's too big. There's no thing is impossible.
It's only frequency. Everything is only frequency. It doesn't matter if you have a lot of things inside you that are not part of you. They are frequencies. So
so you pretty much are in the space where you really know that it's like, okay, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is that I want, you know that you can get it, you can manifest it, you can really be a force for good.
Now I understand that everything is frequency. You just have to connect to the right frequency with that emotion. And the emotion is the same emotion for me. Health is the same emotions as in abundance. It's freedom and happiness. So I just have to connect with that feeling, but with the thought of being health or being abundant. So I understood also that every time I felt lack in health, that was making my body worse. So now my challenge is every time I feel pain in some part of my body, I stop there and elevate my frequency with the thought of being healthy, being able to play sports or whatever that I like to do. It's only frequency. I didn't understand. I mean, I understood when every time Dr. Joe said it, but now
you know it.
I don't know. I know that it's only frequencies and only emotions. There's nothing more to it.
So let's talk about this, because I know that some people are listening to this and you're saying, okay, now you recognize and you're aware, you realize that it's all of it. All of it has to do with frequency. And you said something very important, something very special, which is what, and Dr. Joe also talks about this. There are other teachers who talk about it too. I don't know if you're familiar, like with Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard talks about feeling being the secret, because it's in feeling that you get to the frequency. So for example, you have fear, which has a frequency of 100 hertz on the Hawkins scale. It has 100 hertz frequency, as opposed to love, which is 528, joy, which is 600, ecstasy, 700, enlightenment, 800. So if you're feeling love and you're feeling joy and you're feeling happy, you're feeling grateful and you're appreciative because you're feeling so happy and so grateful, that is a higher vibrational frequency than if you're angry, sad, or fearful, which is in that 100 or below 100 frequency. So share with us a little bit about, is it a feeling in your body? Is it where you just decide first, or you go back and you remember the last time you were like super excited and happy, or what is your process?
Every time I feel some pain in my body, just stop there and just feel happy, feel healthy, feel whole, feel with my heart. First, I open my heart. After I open my heart, I just start feeling those emotions. I'm putting the intention of me. Like, for example, I have pain in my body has pain in the joints. So my intention after feeling those feelings is me being at the gym, lifting weights, or me playing tennis. And I just start to remember those days that I was playing or being at the gym. And
Okay.
even though it doesn't happen in that moment, the healing, just for those seconds that I felt those emotions, I know that my body is changing frequencies. And another thing that I read of Joe's work is that every time I feel those emotions with that intention, my neurons are changing from remembering the pain or remembering that I have issues with my body to connecting to new neurons saying that I remember my health.
Health and well-being.
So every time I feel those emotions and put that intention, I know that maybe it's not going to happen that moment, but it's building and building, and in some time it's gonna change. So I just stop worrying about when is it gonna happen, and that had an effect on me prior to this because I wanted it to change in that moment. Every time the testimonials they said I changed in a minute in a meditation, and I was like I have to do it that way because that's the way that they're telling us. But there's a lot of ways to get to our goals. So if I don't change in that moment, I just know that something in me changed, and I just keep going. I try to feel those. I mean, when I stop and feel those elevated emotions, and I feel joy and happiness, I try to keep it as long as I can. And in the day, if I forget, well, I forgot. So
Yeah.
another time when my pain reminds me that I have to work, I'll stop then and do my work again. And the other thing is that I knew that I didn't have to do the meditation sitting down with my eyes closed. I knew that the challenge was with my eyes open when I was in my life walking and talking to people. That was the real challenge. So with my health, I'm I'm not meditating about my health with any meditation. I'm just elevating the emotions every time I feel that I don't have health. So just to see what happens, to
Yeah.
see if I need to do the meditation because elevating your emotions and connecting with the divine. It doesn't matter if you're laying down, sitting up,
Doesn't matter.
or walking. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So
Yeah, it doesn't
that
matter.
is my new work.
Yeah. So one of the things that I learned, and I'm glad that you actually shared it the way you just shared it, because one of the revelations that I had too was that when we're doing, there's the formal meditation where you sit down, lay down, stand up, whatever, however it is that you're doing, a guided meditation where you're listening to one of Dr. Joe's meditations or whatever ones you may have created for yourself, or if you're just doing it in your own quiet stillness. But another form of meditation is when you're going about doing your life, and like you said, all of a sudden you feel a pain and you realize, you're recognizing that your neurons have a groove in your brain that is taking you to the past and pulling that pain from the past and bringing it into the present. And you're like, okay, I don't want to keep on bringing that forward into the future. So I'm going to recondition my body to a new mind, and I'm going to slow down my breath, slow down my heart rate, slow down my brain waves. I'm going to not necessarily do a formal meditation, but I am going to set the intention, and I'm going to add the elevated emotion, because the elevated emotions is what magnetizes this to happen faster. And now you're rewriting the neurons to fire to the ones that were prior to you having pain, that are there already, that show that you're in health. And now it's replacing that to now it's going to be the pathway is rewired to the healthy aspect of you.
Yeah.
And so as you do that, you're like in gratitude and appreciation, you're in joy. That is a meditation in and of itself. Even though you might be driving your car, you may have noticed, okay, I got this knee joint that's painful. Okay, as I'm driving, you're able to do it driving. That's a meditation. You might be
Yeah.
walking down an aisle in a store, or you might be sitting at your desk, at home checking your email. It doesn't matter. The where doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
those little moments in time are meditations, because Dr. Joe tells us that the word meditation means to know yourself.
Yeah.
You really do know yourself in that moment as you stop and take inventory of where you are and where you want to go, and then you pull that, you're drawing basically a pathway neurologically, because you know yourself. You're like, okay, yeah, there's an unwanted pain, but I know how to get rid of this. I know how to rewrite
Yeah.
the program in my head. And you really do know yourself, and that's really what meditation is.
Yeah. And another thing that I want to say is that even though I have done this work and manifesting money and everything, sometimes I feel lack again, and sometimes I don't feel healthy, and I get frustrated and I stop meditating for a day or 2 days because I'm just sick of it. But I know that this is one of the ways, the easiest ways to overcome myself. So even though I stop meditating for a day or two, or stop elevating my emotions, I go back to the videos of any master that has knowledge about this, and I just remember that I can do it even though I have doubt. So I just keep going even though I feel frustrated sometimes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people think that the people that manifest things or heal themselves are enjoy every day, feeling perfect every day, and it's for what I've heard, not everybody is had a perfect transformation. There's a lot of doubt and a lot of frustration, and I had some of those, and I'm having those right now with my healings in my body, because sometimes I think that it should be healed by now, but I just stop that. I get frustrated 5 minutes, and then I go back to change those emotions.
Well, that's because you're a human and you're still alive.
Yeah.
And your ego
Yeah.
is not dead. Your ego is there, serving its purpose. And, it shows itself as doubt. It shows itself as fear. It shows itself as frustration or as boredom.
Yeah.
So, it's evidence that you're still alive, obviously. And so, that's part of the process. But it's like, as we continue, we know how to open our hearts. We know how to have that unconditional love. We know how to apply the formula. And, there are days that, don't go as well. Again, that's part of the human experience, but then we can get back on the horse faster and say, okay, I spent a few hours, or I spent maybe a few minutes, or maybe I spent a whole day or two. I didn't really need to be in that kind of a darker place. It's like, what am I doing? It's like, I know better than to allow myself to. It's like, wait a minute. No, that's like my stupid ego. It's like, no, you're not going to get the best of me. So you get back on, and then you do whatever you need to get into that better feeling state, whether, you go out with friends, you go to the beach, whatever it is, because everybody does something different. Some people might, play with their dog or their cat or whatever. But the point is, you have the tools and you're like, wait a minute, no, I can turn this around a lot faster. And like I said before, we started off with the fact that, we have many different areas of our lives. You have your financial life, your health life, you have your spiritual life, you have your relational life. We have many facets that make up the whole of who we are. And so, maybe the money and the health and the wealth are all taken care of, but maybe you have somebody in your family that you're not talking to. And you're like, how come I can do it with, I can heal others, I can, heal aspects of myself, I can bring money in, but I still can't, there's this part of my life where it's like, okay, I have this issue with this relationship where it's not ideal. And it's like, well, you know how to apply the formula. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. I actually recently had a situation where I had a circumstance with, I have two brothers, and I had one of my brothers where we had this circumstance that happened like 9 years ago. This is the second time in my life where he had gone. The first time I can't remember. I think it was like 5, 6 years. He didn't talk to me. And then it happened again. As here we are as grown-ups, it happened again. It happened when he was in his 20s. Now it happened again. And it's like, wait a minute. It's like, so this time around, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to worry about it. It's like, my conscience is clear here. If he ever never wants to talk to me again, I'm not giving my power away. I already asked, done deal. But I really thought, it's like, gosh, if I can manifest all these other things in all these other areas, I should be able to do this. But I did what you said, which Dr. Joe talks a lot about, letting go and surrendering and being at peace with the unknown, with the unexpected. And it's like, you're not trying to make anything happen, and you don't have a solid expectation of a particular outcome. You have more of you're just open to receive whatever it is, because the divine, God might have something even bigger and greater in store. And it's so funny because I had just had a conversation with my mother a couple months before, and I told her, I go, look, if I really hate to see my brother in pain. I really think he's been suffering unnecessarily. And I said, but you know what? It's like, when I see him, I say hi, but he doesn't acknowledge my presence. I said, there's nothing really else I can do. So I just kind of kissed it off, as in, every now and then I'll throw it into a meditation, but whatever God chooses to do or not to do, I'm fine. If he never talks to me again, that's fine. I'm at peace. I just send him unconditional love, and I really just want him to not suffer. I want him to have a more pleasant, loving life. Well, believe it or not, about a month ago, I was talking to my dad on the phone, and my mom and dad, and my dad said, oh, by the way, your brother wants to talk to you. I said, sure. Long story short, he basically said, you know what, let bygones be bygones. Let's bury the hatchet. Everything between you and me is fine. He basically said, I love you. I miss you. I only want, great things for you. I'm like, wow. I'm like, the meditation, and I barely, to be honest with you, I didn't spend a lot of time on that, because I just did a here and a there, and then I spent the rest on all sorts of other things that I felt that were more, even a greater heart's desire, to be honest with you, because I had just done that and I let it go, not really expecting. I really didn't think he would, because he's such a stubborn individual, that I just figured, anything is possible, though. I've seen so many miracles that I just didn't let it go, and I didn't give it a lot of. There was no resistance. It was like done, and then let go, and forget it. Like you were saying about the money, where you didn't think about it very much. So you did it, and you let it go. You're focused on other things, and that's kind of how I did it. And it's like, so I called my other brother, and my little brother was, what? I thought you just said that Byron called you, and I said, he's like, no way. And I'm like, I told my best friend, and my best friend was like, nah, what? That's crazy. I go, welcome to my life.
Yeah. It's awesome having this life.
It is.
And everybody can do it. So it's just practicing.
Well, and the thing that, there's always going to be people who don't. There are some people that you can have Jesus manifest in 3D, show his wounds on the palms of his hands, evidencing that he was in fact nailed to the cross. And he can personify and tell the person, look them in the eye and say, this is the truth. This is what you can do. And this is a promise that is there for you. And the person will go, I'm not so sure that you're Jesus. And I'm not so sure. Yeah, other people, but maybe not me.
Yeah.
So if you want to argue for your limitations because you doubt, the truth is you don't believe your own ability, which is most of us. That's the thing. It's like we think, what am I doing wrong? Which is our ego, of course. What am I doing wrong? Or everybody else can do this, but not me. Or I'm not doing it quite right. It's always something that's falling short, that is not a good feeling. And that, like, I remember the first day at the 7-day advance, that's the first thing that I realized that Dr. Joe said, that it made it crystal clear. I'm like, wow, so anything that is not other than a loving thought that makes me feel powerful, that makes me feel loved, anything that falls short, you know, am I doing this right? Am I breathe? You know how everybody talks about the breath, and yeah, the breath it's not a regular breathing exercise that we're doing during the meditations. There's many different types of breath that we can do in the meditations, and the specific one that he teaches us for the coherence healings and so forth does take some practice. But every single person, I mean, if the people, like that guy who was paralyzed from the neck down, think about it, he's paralyzed from the neck down, he can't feel his muscles, but put his attention, and it didn't matter that he couldn't feel, because you and I have the benefit that we can feel everything. So that guy in that wheelchair couldn't feel everything, and he still managed to do it, and then he was able to stand out of that wheelchair. So we can't, it's like we're lying to ourselves saying that we're doing something wrong, we're not doing it right, or everybody, that's all baloney. It's not true. We just need to do it and let go, do it and let go, and then just feel that loving feeling. Wow. So, oh my gosh. So we are right now, as of this filming, we are in the month of March. So are you going, is your next event the Orlando?
It's in April.
Okay, I'm going to that one next as well. Okay. So I look forward. We'll have to do lunch. I'm going to do the same thing that I did in Cancun, where we did I did the reservations so that, like 10 or 12 of us could go to dinner together. Cause I didn't know anybody when I went. So I just figured every night I'll just have a table of 10 or 12 so that whoever wants to join me. And as you know, we all got together every night. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
Tomas, this has been fantastic. Is there anything else that you want to say with regards to this experience, and any word of encouragement for the viewers in the audience out there?
I think I said everything. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say.
Thank you so much for your candor, your open-heartedness, for your willing to share about this experience. And I'm so excited. You've encouraged me too. I've had, even though it's amazing how we by hearing each other's stories, hearing each other's testimonials, it really does feed our souls. And I think just as we eat food, 2-3 times a day plus snacks, I think that our spirit and our psyche needs to continue watching these testimonials, these stories of transformation, watching, these type of interviews like this, because it does serve as a source of encouragement to say, you know what, just keep going. You're fine. No one ever gets it absolutely perfect in every single area. Even Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe says, it's like, does he get frustrated? Oh yeah. Does he have negative thoughts and negative emotions? Yeah, but he doesn't dwell for hours, or days, or weeks, or months. No, he catches it right away, lets it go, and then he applies the formula. And that's the trick is, you're a human being. So you are going to have negative thoughts. You are going to have negative emotions, but you don't have to dwell and recreate more negative experiences by holding on to the negative emotions.
The negative emotions only happens one time in your life, but you recreate it every time you think about it. So every time you feel that emotion, your body gets rattled again. So it gets worse and worse every time. So if you can stop it, it's gonna change your body faster.
Yeah. Okay, Tomas, this has been a wonderful, beautiful hour. Thank you so much again. I look forward to seeing you in April. My heart sends you love, and we'll see you soon. So thank you for tuning in, tapping in here to Love and Money Secrets TV. My friends and gems, as always, ciao for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.